Dylan, crazy game last night. From the guy who said that there's going to be a sweep too. So, any words on that?
Yeah, I was looking for LeBron. I don't love the guy, but I do think I came into this thinking that he was probably the GOAT, and I was looking for him to prove that and help me win some arguments, and he has been a huge letdown. No, I'm
I would
disappointed in that
disagree,
guy.
dude. He had an
Here's the
amazing
thing.
game last night.
He had an amazing game. Like the numbers speak for themselves, but I don't forgive the last play. I know it's the right play, but like I'm gonna take a quote from Damian Lillard. Like LeBron goes down, draws two defenders, passes out to the wide open guy. Someone asked Dame, "Do you think that was like the wrong shot, the wrong move?" And he was like, "No, he made the right play. Dot dot dot. But I would have shot it on both of them. I think LeBron needs to make a play and hit a game winner, or like needs to down the stretch, like get them in a position to win. Like you're LeBron James, chance to win the finals, one possession game, the whole at fourth quarter. Like I'm not giving you any excuses. If you want to be Michael Jordan, you want to be Kobe, like you got to be a killer. You got to win the game.
So before we go into the actual game, I want to where did this notion that because I don't think LeBron wants to be Michael Jordan. I don't think he wants to be Kobe. I think he wants to be LeBron James. And where did this notion come that making the right play if you're the guy is isn't the right play? Because I just think it's a little bit unfair. I think that LeBron is he wants to play the game the right way, and if you don't trust your teammates in that moment, I question if you're really going to trust your teammates at all. Now, that being said, the rest of this team is trash. All right, Danny Green is trash. Danny
Danny
Green
Green's
is
the
a
coldest
garbage
player on the
player.
floor.
He's a he. Danny Green was the worst player on the floor at all times last game. Like, if you're talking about just inability to do anything that he's supposed to do, he needs to step it up in Game 6, or his job's on the line.
Yeah, did you see LeBron after the game? Like, I trusted Danny Green. We trusted Danny Green. You got to live with that. Just very solemn. Um, I just think that LeBron, like, if you want to be the best ever, like, that's a situation where, like, I'm going to hit a shot to win the finals. I mean, I know if he makes a play and Danny Green hits it, that's great. But I think that would have been compared to, like, the Ray Allen shot. Like, you got this guy that's gonna get LeBron over the edge. And, that's why you have talented guys on your team. But I think that if LeBron wants to be the best ever, whatever needs to happen, and you need to win the game. Like there's no excuse if you lose the game. If you lose the game and you passed out, then I'm going to tell you should have shot it because you're LeBron James.
Yeah, so let's
Even if
talk.
like you back him down to like the free throw line, just to like the little LeBron fade. It could be like the Kobe fade, like to win the finals in the Mamba jerseys. Like call it ISO. Like don't make them make someone else beat you. You know.
Yeah, well, okay, so let's talk about the game because Eric Spoelstra, in my opinion, is the MVP of that game. I don't know if the whole entire game, they were kind of LeBron's passes were getting tipped around, intercepted. It seemed like they were getting into his usual passing lanes. And that last play and other plays before that, they did a really interesting thing where LeBron would get the ball, and as he approached the basket, they would force him into the corner, and they would by bringing the guy on the block over. And the guy on the opposite wing, which I remember one play was Jay Crowder, they would bring him over so that skip pass that he does was covered. And I think Eric Spoelstra really watched the tape on LeBron, what he did in the first 4 games. And in a lot of ways, LeBron wasn't able to rely on his teammates to get those open shots because those passing lanes just weren't there anymore. I think that's why he ended up scoring a lot more points. And I think I did like a lot of that, especially in the second half when he really just was like, I don't think anyone else in my team is really going to step up in this moment. I need to step up. Um,
I think that if AD has the ball in his hands on the last possession, they win the game.
I credit Eric for that, and AD is obviously. I hope he can rest up the next 2 years because I think he's hurt. He does not look right.
Okay, so when he started limping, I was like, wow, he just tore his ACL, and he was fine, and that made me think that he's a little bit soft because you watch the replay a million times, like
Looked like his Achilles.
basically nothing that it looked like. If it's anything, it was Achilles, but they said it was his foot. He was like his foot was hurting, and it was like, look, his foot hits
Duncan
Danny Green
Robinson.
Duncan Robinson's knee, like his foot and his shoe hit a guy's knee, and he's coming out of the finals. Just
Well,
thought that was a little
to his
soft.
credit, he never came out of it. He never, except after that moment, I think he played like every minute past that. And
Yeah,
in that fourth quarter, he was limping around,
he
and
was limping around. Yeah,
I got a little bit of the KD like PTSD where I've seen a guy grabbing the back of his ankle at the lower of his Achilles, and you're kind of thinking like, should Vogel take him out for just a few minutes before like real clutch time comes, just to like gauge where he's at, just to see, because the truth of the matter is that this team, LeBron's going to be the reason why they win, but without AD, this team is like outside LeBron is garbage, and we've already said that. But it really got
I,
exposed
I
last game.
I think if you're like, yeah, if you're Frank Vogel, you're thinking like my best chance to win a finals right now and to win next finals is if I don't let AD tear his Achilles by benching him. But I don't think that like it looked a lot like he was holding his Achilles. But watching the replay and hearing what the commentators were saying that it was his foot, I think that it was his foot, and I think like I'm glad he played through it because I would have been disappointed in the guy if he like let that pull him out of the game. He was limping hardcore the last 5 minutes, and maybe that's why they didn't feed him the ball. But I don't know. I put it on LeBron. I know that's like it's the impossible standard. Like LeBron's been held to the highest standard his whole career, but like if you're like going out there to prove that you're the best ever, I would have been nice if you hit like a finals winning shot. That's
Yeah, and one more thing on LeBron, because I want to talk about Jimmy Butler. I think Jimmy Butler is really a hero in this series. But even if LeBron wins next game, is this like, is it because they didn't beat them handily? Are
I
people
think
going to
that'll go
hold this
against
against
him.
him? Yeah,
I
because it's six
definitely do.
games. Because it's 6 games, like, do you think that, especially if he goes seven, and if even if LeBron wins in game seven, I still think that people are going to hold this against him.
I definitely do. I don't. Okay, so yeah, I like again, like I've wanted LeBron to be the GOAT. I've wanted to be able to win that argument for so long. And so I'll like maybe I'll fight against it when it happens, but like I think that they should have swept them. And if they go seven, I think like maybe history will forget that, but it's a bad look.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, obviously, if he loses, then it's over. And I think when people say who's the best player, I think LeBron, people with two eyeballs know that LeBron is the best player, but the greatest player, that implies legacy. And legacy is not in LeBron's favor right now compared to Jordan. And
Yeah.
the fact that they lost that game, I think, says something. But anyways, yeah, Jimmy Butler. Like, what do you see that's different? Because he wasn't this kind of guy the first two series. Like, he was good, but this is something that, like, this triple double Jimmy is pretty it's a welcome sight to see.
He played 47 minutes and 11 seconds last night. He played all but 49 seconds of a 48-minute game, which is crazy. Again, especially if you're guarding LeBron James and Anthony Davis for 47 minutes. I think that Jimmy Butler, like more than maybe anyone in the league, feeds off of just like the moment, the adrenaline, like the trash talk, the everything. And so I think that if you like put him in a finals game, he's just like dialed up to 15. Like that's why I believe like he can play 47 minutes and like not even break a sweat because he's Jimmy Butler. I think that he's just a baller, and when you put him on the Timberwolves, that means like fighting guys in practice, and when you put him on a championship team, that means he's going to fight for a championship.
Is he a top 10 player?
I guess that's an interesting question. I used to say no, because like you don't see him scoring like 30 points a game. But if you put him on the line like that, he's hitting all these mid range shots. He looks like Allen Iverson. That's like what I think of when I think of like finals performances by like one player that just like carry a team. And he looks like AI. I don't know if he's top
Yeah.
10. It's
I
tough.
I think when you're talking about ability, I don't think he's top 10. But I think if you're talking about a player that, like, win share, like you're talking about like a winner, someone who's going to literally make your team win more games and is going to win more close games, I think Jimmy Butler is top five. I think he is like, it's like he's the Russell Wilson of basketball. Like,
The thing,
yeah,
you
he's
might
not
be
Mahomes. He's not Mahomes. He's not LeBron. Like, he doesn't have the physical gifts. He doesn't have like the no look passes. Like, he's not that guy, but he he is like the guy that, in when the game's on the line, I think he's top five clutchness. He's top five ability to stay within the moment. He's never going to crack. And he's also going to hold everyone on his team accountable. in the best way possible. So if you're talking about setting a great culture, winning games, and being clutch, I think he is inarguably top 5 in those categories, at least right now.
I was gonna say, like, if you're making 2K overalls, I think that Kyrie and Russell Westbrook and Joel Embiid have a higher 2K overall than Jimmy, just based on all their attributes. But I think that Jimmy is proving that like that's the guy you want on your team more than those guys.
Yeah, and I do think that Eric Spoelstra probably again, because I don't think obviously I don't think the Heat are going to win like the whole series per se, but I think Eric Spoelstra is going to get not enough credit once again because I do think Jimmy stepped up. I think that's a big part why they're winning. But you talk about losing your leading scorer like in game one, like Goran Dragic. By the way, like if you tear that ligament in your foot, I'd be very surprised if Goran comes back. Um, and Eric Spoelstra has found a way to just make it work. And guys like Duncan Robinson are being put in a position to really succeed. Um, and I mean that guy's just a baller. Like Duncan Robinson isn't an athlete. He's not like any. He doesn't have physical gifts. He's just a baller. He might be the next Joe Ingles in the way that his impact on the game is just incredible. Like for what relative to his like gifts.
Kendrick Nunn has not played in a long time, and he came in and played like a lot of
Yeah,
minutes last night and hit a bunch of shots in Dragic's absence. I know he's played this series, but like he like filled a spot on the roster. Like you need a guy like anyone that plays in the game needs to score 10 points against the Lakers, and he did.
he plays a lot like this is what I realized that when I realized that it might be Spolstra more than anything. He plays a lot like Goran, like Kendrick Nunn, like in especially in this finals. I got PTSD when Kendrick Nunn hit that step back three late in the third. I think it reminded me a lot of that Goran step back three banker against the Celtics,
Yeah.
where it's like you just have another guy that can bail you out, and especially in the pick and roll, I think they play very similarly. They have a very similar effect on the game, similar skill set. And Spoelstra is just he's done it again. Like that is a bona fide film room adaptation.
Yeah, do you think that the Lakers like would benefit more if they had like Dwight Howard on the floor and they just tried to like go way bigger and try and make them play their way, or you think the Heat like always force the team to adjust to them? Because I
So a
think
lot,
like the Heat, like I don't think that they outmatched the Bucks or us talent wise, but they forced us and the Bucks to like completely play to their skill set.
yeah, and a lot has been talked about this like small lineup that the Heat shell out there. I just think that if AD is full health, then that's like those 3 games that the Lakers won, where the Heat have to play the Lakers game, or at least they have to deal with the Lakers game, which it just like especially that game one where you're just like, dude, the Lakers are just like they're just out, like they're just so physical, they're so big, they just play bully ball that the Heat can play all this fancy dancy, like and do their Spurs offense and whatnot, but it doesn't matter because LeBron and AD are just they're men among boys. But when AD isn't healthy, I don't know how much you benefit off Dwight Howard. Like Dwight Howard being an inside presence defensively is definitely a thing, but offensively, I think Bam really gets the rest that he needs. Like because he's like,
True.
oh, guard Dwight Howard, I just sit in the paint, and then all of a sudden, Bam also becomes an elite like rim protector because he's sitting in the paint. And I don't know if you're Frank Vogel, I just think that you look at LeBron and AD and you say if these guys aren't 100% and they're not both on the court, we will be we will have to play the Heat game or we'll lose. Like if we don't hit threes, if that second unit doesn't hit threes, they don't shoot at least 40% from three, the Lakers are going to lose.
I noticed last night Rondo didn't really play much. He played 17 minutes. He had he had 4 points. He made one shot. I think Rondo has been like their third best player this series, and I feel like they gave up on him a little bit. I know Danny Green is like the better shooter, but
He's not.
you throw Rondo on the floor with the last possession, maybe he makes a better play. I don't know, maybe not.
I mean, just a quick comparison to if you remember the 2013 Spurs and Heat finals, that 7-game series. Danny Green was lights out a few of those games.
Danny
And
Green, his local career, he's been a great 3-point shooter. Not right now.
and like I think that if the Lakers do collapse, of course LeBron is going to get the massive, like, he's going to get the most of, and rightfully so, the most of the blame. But Danny Green in the whole playoffs is,
Yeah.
I don't think LeBron will allow him to be on the team if they lose. Like, I
Danny
don't.
Green, I know this because I was arguing with my friend the other day, so I know this for off the top of my head. He's shooting 34% from the field and 33% from three in the playoffs. That is not acceptable for a player that gets minutes, let alone your shooter, like your sniper.
Yeah, he's like, I'm a 3-and-D player, yet you're getting lit up by every wing player around the Heat. You're not hitting your shots. When you put the ball on the floor, you get it stolen from you. You're not making any good passes. You're not getting any rebounds. So what are you doing? And I think after the game, I explained to my friends why I think that plus minus is the dumbest stat in the world and has been made useless by stats like player efficiency rating and whatnot. It's not like Danny Green's plus minus is going to be like -30, but what you if you watch the game, you see
Yeah.
just you're like, oh my gosh, he's by far the worst player on the floor right now. KCP is making Danny Green look like KCP. Like,
That's true. KCP, I have like hated on him a lot, but maybe he makes that shot. Maybe J.R. Smith makes that shot.
KCP, I think we need to give him credit in this final series. I think, in my opinion, I think Rondo was the third best player in the Nuggets series, but I think KCP has been the third best player in the finals.
That's fair.
He's hit a lot of big time threes, and I think he's the third best not because he's having these monster games or he's making these monster plays. It's because he's doing his role. He's filling his role, and if that's all you can ask.
It's interesting. Last night, remember how Morris turned it over after he got the rebound?
Mm-hmm.
So they chose to have Morris on the floor. Morris last night, 23 minutes, 0 points, 1 rebound, 0 assists. And he's on the floor over Kyle Kuzma and Rondo and a number of other guys. That jumps out to me.
That was weird because I do think his size, he gets that rebound. I think that's his job, but very clearly shot his pants. It really funny. Like he picks his dribble up between like the elbow and the 3-point line, which if you do that in that situation, you're shitting your pants. Like, it makes no sense to do that in that space. AD is obviously getting undercut by Bam because, Bam is physical and whatnot. Not the time to throw the ball. I don't know if Kuzma makes that decision. Kuzma's been getting a lot of shit too, but I just think that he's a better decision maker in that moment, and he's just as
LeBron's
tall.
wide open. So if anyone else is in that moment and they have the composure to like look to their right a little bit, LeBron is standing there like this and like wide open for 3. I don't know if LeBron hits the 3, but
And I think that he was he was knocking him down last night.
he was.
But like, I wonder if, because Markieff instantly became like the blame because of that terrible play. But I don't know. I really do think that the 90% of that loss is on Danny Green and him not fulfilling his role. Because when you look at this team that is so deplete, like besides LeBron and AD, like I really don't think that any of these players have any kind of major role in any other team, maybe outside of Rondo. You really just got to do your job. And that's all LeBron is going to ask you to do. Like, LeBron's going to score 40 points a game if he needs to. But the rest of you just got to do your job. And
I feel like their roster, goes from you have Rondo, Kuzma, Marcus Morris, Caruso, Danny Green. All those guys teeter between like a very good starter and like an okay bench player. And you have to just like figure out on what night, when is Kyle Kuzma going to be the guy? When is Rondo going to be the guy? And when is Marcus Morris going to have 0 points in 23 minutes?
I think that they need to take Danny Green out of the starting lineup. And again, I know Kuzma gets a lot of shit because he runs into every 3-point shooter he sees and complains about it. But I will say, in that first half, he was the only guy that made Jimmy Butler uncomfortable. He was the only guy because he can match up size-wise. He's quick enough. Once AD got hurt, AD wasn't going to keep up with Jimmy. And Kuzma forced Jimmy into the baseline to make a play to somebody else, which, that's really all you can ask him to do. Now, I think the bigger question is like where the Lakers go from here. I don't think they can rely on AD as much. And you look at that roster and you're like, who's stepping up? Like, are you making adjustments to their starting lineup? Like, who are you playing more? Who are you playing less?
I think that if we're talking about who has to step up, I think LeBron needs to go drop 70 and like be like, okay, like bet, like everyone thinks I shouldn't have passed the ball. I won't pass this next game and we'll win the game. There have been a lot of times when I like watched LeBron on the Cavs where I was like, it seems like LeBron can just score whenever he wants. I don't know why he's continuing to just like throw it out to the corner to J.R. Smith. I know it's like an open guy, but like you're LeBron James. As far as changes to their lineup, I think that I would play Rondo and Kuzma over Green and Morris. That's my personal take. So I just look for that, and I don't know. We'll see what happens.
I agree with that. I think that lineup is it's it and I don't want to just like the thing is it's weird. Like if you bench Danny Green, his confidence is now at an all-time low, and like does he even hit a shot for the rest of the finals? I think he shot 2 for 5 from three last night, and it felt like he went 1 for 30, and
It's
like
just, that's just the way it's been going, like for him the whole time. And I think that like Danny Green is like you throw him the ball in that moment, like we have to just keep like keeping his confidence up. We have to just keep feeding Danny, keep telling him to shoot. And I think that now it's like okay, let's just like it's not his
yeah,
year. There's 2 games left.
people gotta be benched once in a while, and regardless if they win, I'd be very like I really don't think LeBron wants him on the team next year. But I think if you're the Heat, you still got to make somewhat of an adjustment because the truth of the matter is like multiple times in that game, the Lakers would go on these runs and come back, tie the game, get like a 1 point lead, whatever, and they would get bailed out by like do you remember that 6 point possession that the Heat had, where like
The
yeah, like Jimmy Butler gets the N1 and then gets the flagrant call, and then
oh yeah,
Duncan Robinson hits the three, and then the game was tied and very much veering toward the Lakers at that point. And that was multiple times in the third quarter. The game was really starting to go into the Lakers' way. And the Heat really looked like they were in trouble. And they kind of got bailed out. I won't call it bullshit because they're very skilled and they're well coached and they have guys who can hit shots. But one of the times is that 6 point play. Then Kendrick Nunn hits a step back three. Then Jimmy Butler hits a crazy three, and like maybe Jimmy does that for the rest of the series, but I don't think Nunn does, and I don't think they're gonna get that 6 point possession ever again. Those things is not something to rely on, and I think what they need to continue to do is get into LeBron's passing lanes and make it so that his supporting cast is ineffective. But they still need to figure out like how to stop that guy. Because I do think LeBron can score 70 points, and I don't think the key is to put. I think if you put Jimmy on LeBron, I think he's going to get burnt out.
I think the key to stopping LeBron is by doubling him and leaving Danny Green open. That's what they did last night, and I don't know. That's all it's ever taken. You make LeBron pass out, and he'll pass out because he's this is the right pass.
So if that's Kuzma or KCP, I think they're going to pay the price a little more. And I'm curious if they put like if AD is really that injury is really holding him back. I'm curious if they put a guy like Olynyk on him and they because I think Bam on LeBron is the optimal. I don't think LeBron shoots threes like he does last night going forward in the series, and I think Bam on LeBron could really cause him a lot of problems.
Bam and LeBron, they've been doing that a little bit. There have been a couple times when LeBron does like the LeBron dribble where he stares at it and then he just hits it over Bam because Bam's a little slow. But if Bam can just realize like he's staring at the ball, he's going to shoot it, then he can check LeBron for sure.
It's the dumbest but most effective move in the
It
game.
is.
So game 6, like what's your prediction? What do you think's going to happen?
I really can't see this going 7, but I couldn't have seen this going 6. The heat just like won't go away. So I'm gonna once again like fall on my sword and say I think LeBron's gonna take this team out. I think that's my prediction, and if I'm proven wrong, I don't know how surprised I'll be.
I think I'm with you. I think the logical answer is say LeBron closes it out. I think LeBron is pissed, but it's just the AD thing. For me, it's just the AD thing. Like in the playoffs, it's just such a big relief for LeBron for AD to score 30 points. And if that guy's grabbing his Achilles every 5 minutes in this next game, like you said, how surprised would I be? if the Heat won that game, if Jimmy Butler plays like that, I legitimately this is what I said after the game to my friends. It's not that I think the Heat are going to lose. I think the Heat are in trouble, and it's not that I'm deadlocked on on the Heat winning, but I'm worried, and I think that's what the Lakers feel right now. So we'll see what happens. I want to see adjustments made, possibly a small ball lineup if AD is hurting, and maybe they do play Dwight at the five. Um, but and like you said, I've been wanting LeBron to be the GOAT. I've been wanting him to be our generation's Michael. And man, if he loses this finals, it is
It's
just
over.
so over for him legacy wise.